This is a song written during a 3 Steps, 1 Bow pilgrimage to keep us focused and aimed at our goal. So this was meant to inspire 2 monks who were pretty far away out there somewhere on the highway trying to make it to Ukiah. This song was meant to do that. What page is it in the songbooks? Have you got 18? Thank you, Leo. Page 18. It's called the city of 10,000 Buddhas. It's called the city of 10,000 Buddhas. It started with a vow to bring enlightenment to every living being. From the sage who brought the Buddha and the Dharma and the Sangha to America to build a new foundation. It's called the city of 10,000 Buddha. A little bit high, you can stretch your voice up there. It's called the city of 10,000 Buddhas. It's founded on a vision of the proper Dharma flourishing again. It's a place for cultivation, it's a place for transformation of the common one to a bodhisattva. It's called the city of 10,000 Buddhas. The city is home to Guanyin Bodhisattva, compassionate, enlightened one who contemplates the sounds of living beings. With 1,000 hands to see them and 1,000 ears to hear them and 1,000 hands to rescue them from suffering. It's called a computer break. It's called the city of 10,000 Buddhas. Once more. It's called the city of 10,000 Buddhas. Instilling virtue in the children, filiality is number 1. They will vow to get enlightened, to repay their parents' kindness and repay the great compassion of the Buddhas. It's called the city of 10,000 Buddhas. It's called the city of 10,000 Buddhas. It starts with care for aging people, filial behavior in the home. When the family is happy, then the cities will be peaceful, and the nations and the worlds will come together. It's called the city of 10,000 Buddhas. It's called the city of 10,000 Buddhas. Enlightened to the Buddha nature, perfect and complete in everyone. He's the sage who vowed to save us, to show the road to wisdom, to return the light, wake up Turtle Mountain, where we are today. It's called the city of 10,000 Buddhas. It's called the city of 10,000 Buddhas. Making Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, sages from the likes of you and me. Fit all the words in the next line. And the virtue of our teacher turns our greed, hate, and delusion into precepts, to samadhi and to wisdom. It's called the city of 10,000 Buddhas. It's called the city of 10,000 Buddhas. It's called the city of 10,000 Buddhas. Indeed. Okay. So we're going to continue our story here because we're working for we're working for the next encounter, which is with a monk called Hui Ming. And, oh, darn it. Jinchuan, would you mind going to my trailer and getting the red Sixth Patriarch Sutra? It's there on the table. Shifu has commentary in that sutra that is priceless, that we don't want to lose. Okay.
Is Marty going to retranslate the commentary as well?
I don't think so. I think it's been, we've published it. That red book was the first one, and that was really, we did it ourselves. Since then, BTTS has published 2 more versions of the sutra with Shifu's commentary. So that's all out there. It's really beautiful. Been laid out by Heng Sure, and it's really nice looking. So what this is this is an attempt to smooth out the English, make it to think through some of the for example, last night the 应无所住而生其心, produce the thought that dwells nowhere is our translation. And you think, wait a minute, I don't produce thoughts, I think, and dwelling is not the word, that's the, though it's an attempt to put it, to really digest it, but the text only. Now, we checked Shifu's commentary at every step, and for what it meant, thank you. And, but it's not word for word, it's not Shifu's commentary. That's already been published and available, and I recommend you check it. There are maybe 10 translations of the Sixth Patriarch Sutra available online and in bookstores. And some of them are way out there. Some of them you wonder, what were they working with to get the translation that they got? And then there are those scholars who basically start from the position that the Sixth Patriarch never really existed. That's how scholars get famous, is they say something outrageous and you notice them, right? So there's that available. Then it's further complicated because some scholars, along with Chinese archaeologists, uncovered a tomb, Ma Wang Dui it was called. They uncovered this tomb and found a stash of old manuscripts from the Tang Dynasty. Among them was the Sixth Patriarch Sutra, and guess what? It was slightly different than the standard one that everybody had been using for a long time. So when the original is different, then you have headaches. Like, oh boy, which one is the real one, which one was, or are they both real, and do we just not get so attached? So scholars love that kind of thing, because that's what you do, is you use your tools to make your conjecture about what you think happened 1,300 years ago. And of course, nobody can verify it, so you can say anything you want, basically, as long as you can prove it. So anyway, so we've got this translation looked at all 10 of the existing English versions and discovered that some of them were pretty outrageous, and there were some that were very helpful. The one that the Chinese that everybody accepted was the one edited by Ding Fubao. Ding Fubao was this Minguo, the Republican era Chinese scholar from Shanghai who was knowledgeable. That's the one that Shifu lectured from. So at least we know what Shifu picked for the original. So, okay, that maybe is more information than you want, but that's when you try to translate a text, you don't start from scratch. You stand on the shoulders of everybody who came before. So, okay, here's where we left off last night, was the verse. There it is. I kind of like running through the Chinese. One thing that I learn is when I see characters I don't know, I don't say it, and I listen to all of you who know the characters, and I learn them, right? So you're reading along, Xi Fu Da Da Shi, everybody fills in the blank, because you who can really read Chinese, so this is great. Okay, here we go. Ready? The Chinese readers, ready? 有亲来下种，因地果幻生，无亲即无种， 无性亦无生. English, out of caring I am planting the seed. Because of the ground, the fruits will ripen again. Without this feeling, there'd be no seed planted. Without the nature, there'd be no new life to thrive. All right. This is the voice of the Fifth Patriarch, and he's describing, you're getting a look into his heart, He's saying, I care about the Dharma. I care that it survives. It's not that, oh, you got the Dharma, oh, cool, well, see you later. No, it's like, please take care of this. Because I care, I'm passing on the robe and bowl to you, and because you're what's called a zaifa qi, a vessel that can hold the Dharma, you're gonna carry it forward. There is fruit in the future. I'm planting a seed down, and I know there's going to be apples in the future from your students. If I didn't care about it, there'd be no seed planted, and if the Buddha nature wasn't true, this would all be empty, kind of in vain, but it's not. So this is interesting because you can see the Fifth Patriarch, even through the formal Chinese and the way the Tang Dynasty wrote it, you can get his heart. He cares about the Buddha Dharma. This is an important thing for him that he's doing. Okay, Fifth Patriarch speaking again. Is that big enough? Okay, here we go. Ready? 祖父曰：习达摩大师出来此土，人谓之信，故传此衣，以为信礼，代代相承。法载以心传心，皆令自悟自证。自佛为传本体，师密复本心，意为正断。只也勿传，若传此一，命如宣思，如续速去，恐人害汝。慧能起曰：向身处去，祖云：达怀子止，与会子藏。Okay, 藏 not 藏 藏 Okay, 藏 Here we go. The Patriarch further said, long ago, when the great master Bodhidharma came to this land, people did not believe in him. As a symbol of his sincerity, he bequeathed this robe to be passed along from generation to generation. Take a breath. The Dharma is handed down mind to mind, leading all to their own awakening and their own liberation. From ancient times, all Buddhas only transmit the fundamental truth. The true intention is passed along more privately from master to master. The robe, however, has become a source of contention. Let it stop with you and not be passed on. For if you pass it on, your life will be hanging by a thread. Quickly go now, for I fear others might harm you. I asked, where should I go? The Patriarch replied, stop at Huai and hide at Hui. Okay. For people who are following in your text, people who are not looking at the screen or doing both, you want to turn to page 16. 16, 16页 in our text. Okay, so those of you, I'm going to be working with the screen, so if you want to use your book, follow along there. Okay, as we were reading the Chinese, maybe some of you who are new to Chinese heard 代代相承, and then 佛为传本理, 本体, okay? Buddha, generation, 师密复本心, teacher to teacher, secretly pass on the basic thought, the fundamental heart. Buddha and Buddhas pass along the substance, but teacher to teacher give you the heart, the intention behind it. So this is what the Fifth Patriarch is doing, is he's kind of like lifting the covers of this process of transmitting the Dharma. he's giving you a vision into the actual workings of this mysterious thing called transmitting the robe and bowl. So he says, Bodhidharma came to China. People had no clue who he was. He didn't look like them. He looked strange. He probably didn't speak good Chinese at all. And so what did he do? He passed on the most valuable thing he owned, which was his robe and his bowl from the Buddha. I mean, that's priceless, right? And so he said, okay, since you can't take my words, you don't speak Hindi and I don't speak Chinese, just take this as a sign of who has it. So from generation to generation, we're talking hundreds of years, now to the Sixth Patriarch, the Dharma, so it's passed on. Now, he says the actual Dharma goes from mind to mind. No sign, no symbol, no bowl, no robe. From mind to mind, you get it, and I know you got it, because I can feel when your nature is uncovered, you shine, right? And you wake up, and you're liberated, you're set free from confusion and misery and affliction. And then he goes deeper. He says, Buddhas transmit the fundamental truth that what? That your nature can wake up. The basic truth is inside of you there is a Buddha waiting to be uncovered. The intention is passed upon privately from master to master. I don't get that. The true intention, it's Bunxin. I don't understand what that means. I think it's more like, it's kind of like the Buddhas give you the principle, but teachers bring it to life, sort of. What was it? It was 4-4 right here. 自古生古 4-4 let's see. 为传本体世事密付本心. It give you the intention in secret. I don't think that's a very good translation, but it's like the true intention. It's like what it's all about. So the Buddhas give the principle that there's a Buddha waiting inside you to wake up. How you do that is taught by a teacher to student, something like that. So he says, now, regarding that symbol, don't pass it on. This is it. You keep it. Because why? If you pass it on now, you're gonna be assassinated. So that's a little bit of realpolitik. The Fifth Patriarch is pretty savvy about the environment that they're in. It's the Wild West in Tang, China, which is the fastest gun becomes the sheriff. You know, the gunfighter comes into town, and if the marshal can't outshoot him, the lawman goes down, and it's mob rule basically. So,
where's the precepts in all this? Against
precepts? Dreaming. I know, really, seriously. Where's the precepts in all this? Exactly.
But actually, it's not Huineng is passing on to others. He's getting this, and that put his life hanging by a thread.
Correct.
But here, it's kind of like saying, if Huineng pass it on, your life will be hanging by a thread. His life is already hanging by a thread by accepting the robe.
Doubly, yeah. So this is the Fifth Patriarch saying, you're in danger now. I've given you this robe and bowl, and you know what? That puts you on the bullseye.
You gotta realize the monasteries back then were way different than today. It was Dodge City back then. It was the Wild West. People, a lot of the so-called monks that were in those monasteries, a lot of them were criminals. They were hiding out from getting caught. You know, so it's a very dangerous.
And they have all
place
the
to live.
swords, right? No gun, but.
Pip, I don't know how many like martial arts films you've seen, but you know, when the monk shows up, oh, it's a great stereotype in Chinese films. He's got big eyebrows, and he's got beads that would choke a horse, right? He's got these big beads, and he's got a staff, and what does he do? He goes, Amitofo, ha ha ha, Amitofo. And you know that by Act 3, he's going to die horribly. Because he also has some sort of poisonous that he does, right? And he's going to die because he's evil. So he's a stereotype taken exactly from, you know, where the precepts in this. This is like like Dharma Salai says, the monasteries were kind of like a YMCA. If we had anything, it's like whoever comes in the door, you don't know. And history tells us that sometimes the emperor-to-be, the prince who didn't want to be emperor, would shave his head and go hide into the Sangha. And you don't know the guy sitting at the lunch table with you, could be the emperor-to-be, who's like, thinks it's disgusting and doesn't want to be the next emperor. So he runs from his dad, and he's in hiding in a precept robe. So, it was really Wild West. Okay, let's see if we can read this whole passage. Ready? Chinese, we're going to start with Hui Neng. So this is the Sixth Patriarch's voice now, speaking for himself. He's telling his story. This is still a flashback of how he got to be the Sixth Patriarch. So he's calling himself Hui Neng. Ready? Up here. 慧能三更，灵得一钵云，能本是南中人，素不知此山路，如何出得江口？吾祖言，汝不须有，吾自宋汝，祖向宋直至九江，祖灵商传，吾祖把吾遥。慧能言，请和尚坐，弟子何遥？祖云：何事吾度汝？慧能曰：米失时度，物疗自度，度名随依，用处不同。慧能生在边方，于系不争，传法尽宜得悟，何自信自度？祖云：如是如是，以后佛法犹如大行。去3年，五方世事，如今好去，努力相难，不宜诉说，佛法请起。Okay, everybody, are we ready? Start in the third watch. Here we go. In the third watch, I received the robe and bowl and asked, I am a southerner and do not know these mountain roads. How do I get to the mouth of the river, the Yangtze? The Fifth Patriarch said, don't worry, I will see you off myself. The Fifth Patriarch escorted me as far as the Zhoujiang courier station, take a breath, where he had us get on a boat. The Patriarch took up the oars and began to row. I said, please, Master, sit down. Your disciple should row. The Patriarch replied, it is appropriate that I take you across. I said, when someone is confused, his master takes him across. But when one has awakened, he takes himself across. Both are called crossing over, but they are used differently. I was born in a border region, so my speech has an accent, yet I have been entrusted with the Dharma. And now that I have awakened, it is only right that I take across my own essential nature. Period. Take a breath. The Patriarch replied, so it is, so it is. From now on, because of you, the Buddha Dharma will flourish. 3 years after you depart, I will leave this world. Start on your journey now and go south as quickly as possible. Don't be in a hurry to teach. The Buddha Dharma is hard to propagate. Okay, there's a lot going on in this, including the Fifth Patriarch's prediction of when he's going to die. Notice. He got the robe and bowl. Now there's a whole exchange, and there's some people just say this is wordplay between the Fifth and the Sixth Patriarch. Other people say there's something deeper going on, but let's run through it here. He says, I'm a southerner. I don't know the roads up here. How do I get to the Yangtze River? Because that's how I'm going to get back south. He wants to go back home. Fifth Patriarch says, okay, no problem, I'll send you there. 我送你了. And the Fifth Patriarch took him to the courier station they had in China, one of the features of Chinese civilization that made it flourish was they had a pony express. The Pony Express was mail, and it was the way the emperor sent edicts out to all over China. And it was, Pony Express means they had courier stations where they would fit a horse up with saddlebags and a rider and send him off to the south from Chang'an or wherever they were, or Luoyang or Kaifeng, and the horse would gallop to the next station. The rider would grab the saddlebags, jump on the next horse, and then gallop, and the horse that was just now winded would recover, and they'd feed him and curry him, and so the mail traveled pretty quickly to all corners of China, and that's a really wonderful way to organize your whole country under a single rule. The Tang Dynasty was famous for that. So the patriarch took up the oars. They got to Zhejiang, and there was a river they had to cross. So the patriarch took up the oars and started to row, and here's the exchange. The fifth patriarch says, "Hey, sit down. I'll take you, Qian Bei." And the patriarch said, "No, I'll take you across." And famous line from the sixth patriarch, he says, "When I was confused, you took me across, but now I'm awakened, so I got to take myself across." They're both crossing over, but they're different. So he says, "I was born down in the south, down in Mississippi, and so my speech has an accent. But now I got the Dharma, and so I'm awake, so I'm going to take you across, take across my essential nature." And the patriarch said, "Rusher, Rusher." This is what Master Empty Cloud said when he saw Shifu. Rusher. So from now on, now is the fifth patriarch saying, because of you, the Buddha Dharma is going to flourish. However, 3 years from now, I'm going to die. He's predicted his own demise. Look at that. That's what patriarch, somebody who's ended birth and death, knows. It's called Lai Ming Qu Bai. You're clear about how you came, and you're clear about how you're going to go. So he says, start your journey and go south. Don't start teaching too soon. Now, he says, 不宜速说. It's not right for you to speak too soon. 佛法难起. Buddha Dharma arises through a lot of hard work. Buddha Dharma is hard to propagate, so don't be too quick. Okay, now there's small lower case here. So this is where the story goes back to Yellow Plums, back to the Fifth Patriarch's monastery. You can read that small print. I'm not sure why that's small print. Here we go. Ready? 慧能慈为足以发祖难行2月中间至大於陵无祖归数日不知堂堂以问曰和尚少病少恼否曰病即无依法宜难宜问谁人传授曰能者得之众乃至言 Okay, English. After I took leave of the patriarch, I set out on foot southward. Within 2 months, I reached the Dayu Mountains. Okay, parentheses. The fifth patriarch returned to the monastery, but did not enter the hall for several days. The community was concerned and went to ask, "Has the master some slight illness or problem?" The master replied, "I am not ill, but the robe and Dharma have already gone south." They asked, "Who was it entrusted to?" The patriarch answered, "The able one obtained it." The community then knew who this was. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, trouble. Oh boy. He was traveling for 60 days. Look at that. Then he finally got where he was told to go. Huai and Hui, 2 places. And we get this little vignette. If this was a movie, this would be a scene, right? Fifth Patriarch came back and nobody saw him. Hey, where's Shifu? Well, he's in his room, I think. But is he eating? Well, his attendant took him some food, but he hasn't come out, he hasn't bowed, he hasn't spoken Dharma, he didn't receive guests. We're worried about him. So they ask in this very polite Buddhist language, look, 和尚, 少病少恼法, right? Do you have, are you sick? Are you troubled? Is there anything going on? And he says, no, I'm not sick. However, guess what? Shunshu didn't get it. Shunshu is not the one. Who got it? Well, the one whose poem I erased off the wall. Right? The one who you were all looking down on. The one who you thought was a rube, a hick. He got it. And, okay, so we're going to move right along here because this is where it gets really dramatic. And Shifu gives us some very interesting commentary here in the red version. Make that a little bigger there. Okay, here we go. Ready? 随后数百人来，欲夺衣钵，一僧素名臣，名惠明，先是四品将军，信心出曹，极易参勋，为中人贤，趁机回能。慧能志向一钵于史上曰：此一表信，可立争取，能据曹孟中，惠明志，泥不动，乃唤云：行者，行者，我为法来，不为衣来。Yeah, right. Okay, here we go. Soon, several hundred of them set off in pursuit, all hoping to steal the robe and bowl. One bhikshu, Hui Ming, whose lay surname was Chun, was a rough and coarse-natured man who had once been a general. He was intent on finding me and chased me down before anyone else. Just as he caught up with me, I discarded the robe and bowl onto a rock, hid in the underbrush, and said, "This robe and bowl are tokens of trust. How can they be seized by force?" Hui Ming went over to the robe and bowl and tried to pick them up, but he could not move them. He cried out, "Cultivator, cultivator, I've come for the Dharma, not for the robe." Oh my goodness, what is going on here, right? Yeah, right. Okay, I believe you. So, now, if this were a cartoon, what would be happening? You'd see like a whole crowd, about 100 guys going while the dust is rising up, and 100 people set off in pursuit, right?
Exactly like that. I watched a cartoon when I was a kid. It's exactly like that. There's an army of monks.
And the dust is flying up. Yeah. Get the bowl, get it bowl. So, they're trying to steal it, and all these feet coming out, they're running around. And wearing their precept robes, and, it's going to steal the robe and bowl. So, now we find out that one of them runs faster, and his name is Hui Ming, and he was named Chun, so everybody who's named Chun probably should be ashamed here of yours. He was rough and coarse-natured, and he had been a general, so he's a tough guy. And he could run, so the Sixth Patriarch's been traveling for 60 days, and these people probably catch him in, less than that. And just as he caught me, so this guy's running along behind him, and the Sixth Patriarch, the brand new Sixth Patriarch, who's still a layman, right? He's not a monk, he's still a layman, and he's still this young guy from the south. He jumps into the underbrush but tosses the robe and bowl onto a rock. And he says, "How can you grab this? These are just symbols of something that happened in our minds." But there's more to it than that, because Hui Ming goes, "Aha, there's the robe and bowl," and he tries to grab him and he can't. And he says, "I just came for the Dharma, not for the robe. Why can't I pick this up?" Now, anybody who's read King Arthur's Legends, remember the sword and the stone? Yes. He couldn't move it. And what was the other one that came up last night? Somebody told? There's Thor's hammer. You can't pick up Thor's hammer, right? In the Marvel comic superheroes, only Thor can pick up his hammer. So there's a little bit of a theme here, and that's not to say this is not exactly what happened. We don't know exactly what happened, but the story tells us that these two items are not just a robe and a bowl. And so that some fast-running, fleet-footed guy is able to pick them up and make off with them and do what? Sell them or call himself the patriarch or whatever he wants to do with them. Okay, so here's our original. This is the one. Did you get a copy of this? This is the 1971, the first BTTS publication. I kept this. He did. He did. Yeah. Okay. So you ready? Now this is out there. I just want you all to know. Okay. Here's Shifu's original commentary. He says, Bhikshu Huiming was coarse and uneducated. He never opened his mouth unless it was to scold someone, and if they refused to listen, he beat them. He could smash a rock of several hundred pounds with one blow. His extraordinary strength made him a fourth-class military officer. So he called him a general. That's what the text says. But he was, who knows what a fourth class. Hui Ming had one particular trait. His feet were covered with feathers, which enabled him to run fast. He could travel 60 miles a day compared to the ordinary man's 30. His feathered feet and great strength carried him far ahead of the others. As he flew along, his mind raced. I'll get the robe and bowl, and then it will be mine. It belongs to the strongest man. When Huineng saw this big, crude, feather-footed pursuer, he was a bit frightened. Although he had obtained the Dharma, he had just begun to cultivate and did not have great spiritual power. He shouted into empty space, "This robe and bowl are symbols of the faith. How can you take them by force? How can there be any dispute?" Shifu says, "What do you think?" You can hear Shifu back in, when this was lecture 1970, saying, 你们都想怎么样呢？你们觉得怎么样? Right? So, how about that? And just before that, Shifu takes us back in the commentary just before. He says, word spread. Okay, Dharma Master Fa Ru was among those who heard the announcement of the Fifth Patriarch, saying the able one got it. Fa Ru was one of the 10 people to whom the Fifth Patriarch gave instructions before he entered Nirvana, telling them, each of you go in a different direction and be a Dharma host. But now, when he heard the Fifth Patriarch say the able one had received the transmission, he cried out, "No! That Cantonese barbarian Huineng has got the Dharma. How strange." Word spread, and soon everyone knew. They all objected violently. "No, no," they shouted. "How can it be? Let's go take it from him right now." Several hundred powerful people ran after Huineng. Consider the situation. The Fifth Patriarch had transmitted the Dharma to a barbarian, and the entire assembly was resentful. "How could you give it to him?" they said. "We've been following you for so many years. Why didn't you give it to us?" Totally missing the point, right? That it's not in the robe and the bowl. They thought to themselves, the patriarch's brain must be addled. How else could he give the Dharma to such a hick? We should go force back the robe and bowl. So that's Shifu's lively commentary to what's right. So, I mean, oh boy. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I remember Shifu saying that it affects you physically as well, that it destroys the neural sheathing around your nerves and your
Right. Well, it does. Joanne said smoking destroys neural stuff. It does. It fuses in new ways. But we've come so far away. I mean, methamphetamine is, I don't know, everywhere, right? Do you know, so here's Pip, who lives locally in Florence, and there's, like where we live in Highway 9 down in the Santa Cruz Redwoods, the places that are turning out methamphetamine are on all sides, everywhere. It's destroyed rural America. It's destroyed rural Australia. There's ODs in Australia now every single day of young men, mostly, not so many women, but women too, who casually, mostly because they're bored and there's nothing going on in a small town, and yet they can, over their smartphones, they find out about what's happening in Sydney and in Melbourne and in Brisbane, and they want, curious, some excitement. Somebody says, oh, try some of this. And one hit of meth fries your brain, they say, and you can't recover. And these are, like marijuana is a substance that grows in the ground, but methamphetamine is this chemical stuff that fries your brain. And it takes your nerve, the brain communicates these really, really fine synapse nerves things. They're little nerve endings. You see them on a screen, and kind of like broccoli, like really delicate. And you put this chemical in your brain, and suddenly it just goes. It's just like when you put something in a flame and it burns, and it, like that. And your brain doesn't work anymore. Methamphetamine is no joke, and it takes like one hit to cause the damage. And then it's a high, but it's like it knocks you out and then it ruins your brain.
Does anybody try to stop it?
What's that?
Does anybody try to stop it?
A lot of people try to stop it. So for example, I'll tell you a story. I was reading in Australia about this little town not too far from where we are in Queensland. And the family had a mom and a dad and a son and a daughter. And the son was an athlete. He was a soccer player, football player, rugby player. And he got injured, and so he couldn't play. And he was the star, but then he got injured, and he had to stay in bed with his leg elevated because he'd broken his leg or something. And because he got bored, somebody came along with his buddies and said, here, try some of this just to pass the time. And they gave him some methamphetamine, crystal meth, and he tried it. And because he had nothing else to do, he tried it a second time and a third time. And the fourth time he did it, he took too much and died. He overdosed, right? And so who cared? His mom. And his mom went out and said, I have a story to tell to all the other moms in Queensland, pay attention to your son because you'll lose him. So yeah, people do care and they try to stop it. But the problem is if you take it once, it's too late already. So some stuff you just have to say, no, nah, I'm not gonna, that's called poison, right? I'm not gonna take that. What's that?
Do they arrest people?
Say again?
Do they arrest people?
Do they arrest people? Well, if they find somebody who's selling it, yeah, definitely. Because it's illegal, because it's dangerous stuff. But the problem is your buddy, your friend comes up and says, this is cool, try this. And one time, the police aren't going to come and get him for one time. Does that make sense? Some things are just dangerous, and you go, I don't want to do that. And if you really care about your mom not crying because you're dead, don't do it. If you die, your mom's going to cry. You don't want your mom to cry, so don't do it. Yeah, really, really, and it's happening everywhere. There are towns all over America, not just you think somewhere in West Virginia. No, it's everywhere. It's in Oklahoma and it's in Arizona, and worse than meth is now opioids. There's another story on top of meth. Meth is already like 1990s and 2000s. The new one is opioids, which is prescription drugs, things called fentanyl. There's a new one out, fentanyl, which originally was a painkiller. And fentanyl, they say, is like 200 times stronger than heroin. And it's a prescription drug. And there's one company in America who makes it all. And that company is rich now. And they know that this drug, it's so strong that people take the slightest too much and they die. OD, overdose. And yet the company is still happily selling it because they are strong supporters of one political party. And they pay their way to deregulation. And it's a company that spends a huge chunk of its budget on staying under the radar. And I've read the story of where fentanyl comes from, because why? It's now a public health menace. It's one of the main causes of death in America is overdose on this drug that still has a use as a painkiller. But my God, people buy it because it gets you high and then you die. And there's the story that I read was, believe it or not, here you go. This is the fun part of taking drugs. The story was about a little town in southern Ohio, not too far from the Mississippi River, where Ohio has a southern part that's got the Ohio River and the Mississippi River. And this little town of about something like 20,000 people, I forgot the name, like St. Mary's or something like that. And the coroner, who's the coroner? The coroner is the guy who examines the dead bodies that come in to discover what killed them. The coroner does autopsies. You do an investigation to see why the person died. The coroner has so many bodies there from overdoses on drugs, he had to rent a shipping container to keep and to freeze them. He's got something like a backlog of 40 bodies in this little town of 30,000 people. One by one, it's a long process. He brings them in, looks at, oh, sure enough, they overdosed, but he's got to determine the death and officially, otherwise it could be foul play and it could be a criminal thing. So the coroner in small towns are now overloaded because so many people are taking this prescription drug and dying. Like you think, what? Is that true? You know, why are Americans, particularly white men, interestingly enough, white men for some reason are now an endangered species because they're killing themselves with expensive prescription drugs. There's fentanyl, and what are the other ones? There's like three. What is it? Oxycontin and Vicodin. Those are pretty much the three. And that the other dark story is the company that makes them and stays under the radar because it's super profitable to do this. Yes, sir, Leo.
If they know that it will kill them, aren't they like committing suicide?
If they know it's going to kill them, aren't they like committing suicide? Yeah, I mean, what's the thought process in a person who says, wow, this is dangerous stuff, but I'm going to do it anyway? You know, you have to wonder, what are they thinking when that happens, right? What do you think? I mean, what would it be? It's like you think, wow, okay, why would you do it? There has to be some thought of this is a good thing, otherwise why would an ordinary person do that, right? So yeah, it's a wonder. But the result is sure happening. People are dying because they take the drug and their system can't process it. It destroys their body and mind. So strong. Just so people know this word that I'm saying, you'll see it out there, opioid with an I. And opioid, meaning opium, meaning opiate, it drugs you, right? Opioid. We're talking about the Sixth Patriarch, and here's somebody who's using his mind to wake up, using his mind to its highest potential. Wisdom, from the Buddha's description, is the mind at its very finest. And so let's get information about that out there. Meanwhile, at the same time, here's something going on that is very helpful to recognize as long as we put it in the context, right? If we only bring it out there and say bad, evil, wrong, when I was 14 years old, immediately I'd be fascinated. Oh yeah? Oh cool, I want to know about that, you know? Like you tell me no, I want to find out what, you know, like that. So the point is that I think the place to go from this is, like Leo here, for example, is saying, why would somebody do that? That's the right question. You're asking exactly the right question. The Fifth Patriarch and the Sixth Patriarch are looking at the mind. Somebody who goes, gee, I want to try this, probably my first thought is, maybe they're bored. It's not they're bad or evil, they're bored. And there's nobody, no dad there saying, don't do that. Often it's father-deprived children. Mom is busy. Mom's working 2 jobs. Mom comes home and the kid has been on his Game Boy or phone or pad for 3, 4, 7 hours, you know? Where's Dad to say, don't do that? We don't do that here, right? That's the issue. And that's where we're going in our lectures here. Because why? This is our problem. This is not somebody else's problem. This is our problem. That's why it's important to bring it up. And if they can have monks and nuns hearing and saying, yeah, you know, I took a promise that I was not going to use any intoxicants. What was the thinking behind that? Well, I was raised in the 60s, as some of us in the room were, and I remember when marijuana suddenly became available. It happened with the Beatles, interestingly enough, at the same time, and with the Rolling Stones. Rock and roll, sex, drugs, and rock and roll was something when I was a kid, nobody, it wasn't even on the radar. Who smoked marijuana? Like, you know, bandits, bad guys, lowlife, thugs, hobos, pirates, you know. It was far away, right? But then by my junior year in high school, everybody kind of knew where marijuana was. And then by the time I was in college, it was just everywhere. So in our lifetime, this has happened. Marijuana was a natural substance. This is an unnatural substance, but the same mindset of, I wonder what it's like. What's the difference between the mindset that reaches for a video game and a mindset that reaches for a drug? Probably not much different. It's like, oh, I wonder what that's like. Okay, this will kill you. That's the point. And I feel it's like my duty to even, you know, here we are together, especially for young guys in particular, who are like more likely to try something different, is to say, this kind of stuff will kill you. It's not fun. This is not fun. And it's my job as a dad, and not a father to a child, but I'm a dad to, you know, to wisdom, and say, this is bad. Joanne said, our culture avoids pain at any cost. Omar said, there is despair. There's no hope anywhere. Drugs are happening. Let me try it. Oops. OD. You know, brother's gone. So this is absolutely where we're looking right now. Omar said spirituality pulled him out of a world where alcohol and drugs were everywhere. Who are you kidding? What rock do you live under if you think people are not getting high any way they can? You know, of course, get real. People are just, you know, I live in Berkeley, California. Doug Powers will tell you that these young people know everything by the time they're 13. They've tried everything. Everything's available. And there's nothing, there's no alternative. Where do you go? Do you go to politics? Do you go to sports? Do you go to entertainment? Where do you go to find somebody to follow who's wise and good, who touches your heart? Can't find them. So I'll take something that'll blot me out. Oops, dead. That's going on. That's real. So, you know, for us to say, yeah, meanwhile, let's tell the story of the Fifth Patriarch, this, you know, illiterate guy who woke up and became the next teacher of the Dharma. So I think we're on target. To be continued.
We're on target and overtime.
We're on target and overtime. That's right. I think we're over time. Okay. To be continued. Okay, we'll bow 3 times and continue tonight.